With this NHL season almost over, I want to take a look back at my preseason bold predictions for this NHL season, looking back on them for the first time since then. Now today, I'm not just going to react to my bold predictions, I'm also going to grade each and every single one of them, going through some of the good ones and likely some pretty bad ones. But just how true or false were my bold predictions this year, and how badly did they age just a few months later? Well, today we're going to be going through each and every single one of them, so make sure you watch till the end for all that. And hit that subscribe button if you're new for more hockey content just like this all throughout the year, presented by BetUS TV. Now, as you guys know, if you watched the bold predictions video a few months back, I tried to go as surprising, as bold as humanly possible. I mean, what's the point of making a bold predictions video if you're not going to go all in? Which makes me really concerned with the bold predictions we're about to go over, but dang it, let's just get straight into it. Now, let's start out with the first bold prediction I had for the 2025 NHL season, and it actually didn't turn out all too badly. My first bold prediction was that Cole Caufield would score 45 plus goals. Now, it's likely not going to happen as I'm recording this. In 77 games, he has 36 goals, 30 assists for 66 points, a solid offensive year for him, and in the goal scoring department, he's gotten back to a pretty solid level, but not quite at that 45 goal pace. Now, to give you guys some context, the season before this in 2024, we had 9 different players that scored over 46 goals. Matthews, Reinhart, Hyman, McKinnon, Panarin, Forsberg, Pastrnak, Point, Kaprizov. We were having a lot of 45 and 50 plus goal scorers in the league, but this year has actually been quite a bit different. Now, of course, we do still have some season to play, but you can see we've only had one player above the 50 goal mark in Leon Draisaitl, and nobody else has even gotten to 45 goals yet. Now, I do think Nylander, Thompson, maybe even Ovechkin could get up to that level, but it's still going to be a far cry from the amount of goals that we saw out of the top end players last year. But still, Cole Caufield is at a pretty respectable point, being tied for 11th in goal scoring with John Tavares, so among the best goal scorers in the league. And there was a situation where if we continue to see the trend of last year, multiple 45 goal scorers, where he could have been in the same range and still hit 45, but it seems like the goal scoring has been a lot more evenly spread this year in the NHL, which isn't a problem for me, but in terms of my prediction, made it age quite a bit badly. But even with that context, Cole Caufield is most likely, unless he goes on an absolute tear out of nowhere, going to hit 45 goals. Maybe he hits the 40 goal mark, but not quite up to that level. I'm gonna give myself a straight C. It wasn't correct, but it wasn't too far from the truth either, especially with the lower goal scoring among the top guys this year. Alright, so far we're not doing too badly, so I'm hoping that continues. Well, I'm very sorry to pass me because it very much did not. For my second bold prediction, I had the Chicago Blackhawks rising quite a bit in the standings and actually being a fringe playoff team, being around 80 to 85 points. Now again, this also had some pretty good reasonings. I saw players on the younger side like Connor Bedard really rising up in their production. I saw them having a pretty decent offseason with players like Mikheyev and Teravainen coming into the fold, and even though a couple of those free agent signings have actually kept them above the worst team in the league status, it's still been a pretty brutal year for Chicago. Even with pretty great seasons out of players like Ryan Donato, things just haven't been able to come together quite yet. But I think that is just kind of a theme we're seeing with a lot of the rebuilding teams this year, is that there has just been such a hard progression to make. I mean, even teams like Ottawa that have been in the rebuilding state for so long are just now getting out of it and just now becoming playoff teams. Really, the only team that I would say that's kind of still been in the rebuilding mode that has really exceeded expectations is the Montreal Canadiens. And they've been a team that's been an amazing story. But that's because they've had great goaltending still. You've had a team that's had so many young performances, players like Nick Suzuki playing at the top of their level, and you have just a really solid team around it. In Chicago's case, the depth just hasn't been there, and now they're finally starting to get the youth, but I think it was a little bit too little too late. And that jump that I saw Chicago making absolutely did not happen. They're right now at 54 points in 77 games. I think they finished with 52 points last year, so a better points per game, but really not that big jump that Chicago, I think, wanted to make. They especially weren't a playoff contender at any point in this season, and that to me was, I think, the most disappointing part. They never really showed themselves be respectable at any point, or really a team that you're really scared of at any point either. And I think for the Blackhawks, that's something they'll really want to correct this offseason. But especially when you might have a difference of 25-ish points in the standings, it's a pretty far cry from what I was predicting at the start of things. So I think in terms of the bold prediction grade, I gotta give it a straight F. Just a complete failure there for the Blackhawks and that prediction there. Now, moving on to my third bold prediction of the day. This one I had a lot of confidence in, and for a while at the start of the season, I thought it was actually looking pretty good. For my third bold prediction, I saw the Utah Hockey Club finishing top 3 in the standings in the Central, and ultimately making the NHL playoffs. Now, this was a bold prediction that I really had leading up to my bold predictions video a year ago for quite a while. I had a lot of faith in the Arizona, then turning into Utah team to really take a big step, and I think they did in a lot of respects this year. They were a much more respectable and commendable team, and were in the playoff race for a while. But I think for Utah, that type of massive jump has never really came. It started out pretty well, but teetered off, especially with multiple critical injuries that really stalled things out for them. I had a lot of faith in that forward group, and there were some injuries there too, but especially the defense, I think, was the biggest thing that has failed them this year, because you have Karel Vejmelka, who's actually had a really good season for Utah. The defense has been a problem again. They went out the last offseason, tried to address that. You had multiple major moves: Sean Durzi, Sergachev, John Marino, and a couple of those, I would say, especially in Sergachev's case, looked pretty solid. But you had the injuries to Marino throughout a lot of this season. You had the injuries to Durzi throughout a lot of this season as well, and those are two top 4 defensemen that Utah sorely missed. And I think if you had those two guys, the season would look quite a bit different, but I still think it would have taken them a lot to, one, be a top 3 team in the Central. Of how stacked that top end is, I don't think that would have happened, but I think a lot of things just didn't quite come together like they really should have. But for how young Utah is, I don't think it's a deal breaker that they missed the playoffs. I just wanted to see them get more respectable, and I think they have earned that this season. Though next year is where I think things will start to get a little bit serious, as Utah really starts to build a fan base there and wants to make big waves. I think for Utah, especially this offseason, we're going to see them spend even more, and this team could look very interesting. But as for this year, and as for the actual prediction, I'm going to give it a straight D. Didn't happen, unfortunately, but there's always 2026. Now let's move on to number 4, and this one actually is very interesting to look back on, because it's, I think, going to become really close to coming true. At number 4, my 4th bold prediction, I had Dustin Wolf of the Calgary Flames winning the Calder Trophy. Now, this was another one, like Utah being top in the Central, that I was really hell-bent on. I thought that Dustin Wolf was the most underrated rookie coming into the season, and he was somebody that I thought would have a great rookie year for Calgary, and that's been the case all throughout this season. In 49 games for the Flames, he's taken that starter job and has run away with it. A 2.62 goals against average, a 911 save percentage. For a rookie goaltender, has been about as good as you could possibly ask, and among the best goalies in the league already. The sad part about this, though, is that I think in a lot of other years, Dustin Wolf would be the Calder Trophy winner, but what Lane Hutson is doing is just undeniable. I mean, I made a video a couple weeks back about how he is my Calder Trophy frontrunner, and for a lot of key reasons, just how much he has improved that Montreal team on the back end, his prolific offensive ability, the passing, the vision, the creativity. It's all so much there already in such a complete package, and you can see in 77 games, 64 points already as a rookie is unbelievable production, silly production, and I think especially for a defenseman, that's going to propel him up to that number 1 spot. It's unfortunate because I think Lane Hutson absolutely deserves it, but man, Dustin Wolf is still doing great things, and I think does deserve to be considered, especially for a nomination. But man, this is what gets me, because if I just worded it differently, if I just said that Dustin Wolf was the dark horse for the Calder Trophy, I think I could have given myself an A+ on this, because I think it is true. Dustin Wolf came into the season with, I don't think, a lot of expectations, but I think rightfully did deserve expectations and has done so many great things with it. He is going to be a great goaltender, and even though I don't think he'll win the Calder Trophy, he's going to be fantastic. Even though Lane Hutson, I think, is deserving, both Wolf, Hutson, Celebrini, these are all excellent rookies that all deserve big congratulations. Now, as for the grade, I don't think it's going to end up becoming true, so as of right now, I'm going to give it an A-, just for being as close as I was, but in Lane Hutson's case, he's undeniable and will win the Calder Trophy, I think, 100% at this point. Now onto my 5th bold prediction, and this was another one that was looking pretty good, actually, for a while, but I think as the season has gone on, it's kind of teetered off a little bit. For my number 5 bold prediction, I saw Tim Stützle being top 8 in NHL scoring this year, and I had a lot of belief in Stützle and Ottawa potentially making some big strides this year. I saw Stützle being a main driver of offense, though, for this Ottawa team, and being a player that really broke through in a major way offensively. I mean, he's had some great years in the past, especially 90 points in 78 games back in 2023, but I saw this being the first year that he'd get to the 100-point mark, and there were times throughout the season where he was especially hot. but I think is settled around the same range that he was last year, this time around getting 21 goals and 72 points in 77 games. Stützle's honestly kind of an enigma because he has so much talent, so much potential, and even though he's not meeting it completely, he's still a really solid player and still is around a point per game. So I think his future is still fantastic, and of course Ottawa, even without Stützle being this miracle player, has still found a way to get major success, which I think is a great thing for that franchise. But I think long term, especially for next year, hopefully Stützle is going to take even bigger steps because he has the talent to do it, and I think especially the team around himself to do it as well, especially as next year comes and that Ottawa team continues to improve. But as you guys could probably tell with the point totals, he did not end up getting top 8 in NHL scoring, settling around the 30-31 range, tied with Quinn Hughes with 72 points. Still a solid player, one of the better offensive players in the league, but not quite the breakout year that I was expecting. So I'm going to give the bold prediction a straight D. Didn't quite work out how I wanted it to. Now this next bold prediction I think turned out a little bit better, but is kind of still in the Stützle range of being far outside of working out. Let's go into my 6th bold prediction, and next up, I had Jacob Markstrom winning the Vezina Trophy. Now, honestly, if I said Dustin Wolf would win the Vezina Trophy, I might have been a little bit closer. But I had a lot of faith in Jacob Markstrom having a stellar year to start out with New Jersey, and he was somebody that at the start had his ups and downs, but I think ultimately has played better in the second half. Still is not really as consistent as you'd want him to be. I thought he was terrific, though, for Calgary last year. A .905 save percentage in 48 games was really underrated for just how inconsistent that Flames team was. This year, he's been a solid goaltender, and in terms of goals I've expected, I think is top 15 in the league, so still one of the better starters out there, but not quite Vezina Trophy level. Especially when you consider that there's been a few points throughout this year where Jake Allen has vastly outperformed Jacob Markstrom's level. You can see in 28 games this year, a 2.61 goals against average, a .910 save percentage. Not the same amount of support around him, but Allen's been excellent, and I think Allen being better than Jacob Markstrom in different facets makes this prediction pretty stinky. At this point, though, I just need to stop doubting Connor Hellebuyck. I mean, if he were to win the next 5 Vezina trophies, I wouldn't really be all that surprised. He is the king to really be recognized, and it's his Vezina trophy no matter what. I will say, though, especially for Markstrom and Jake Allen, I think they've done pretty well considering the team around him. I mean, New Jersey has been a special case this year. They've had their ups and downs, but especially the injuries on the defense as of recent, players like Siegenthaler and Dougie Hamilton, and just how much this affected that team. It's been a lot to worry about and have to take the brunt of that load. And players like Markstrom especially have not had an easy time. I thought it would have been a lot easier, which is why I predicted him to win the Vezina Trophy at the start of the season. I saw that New Jersey defense being rock solid, but it hasn't quite been up to that type of level, at least in terms of the health, and that's made Markstrom's life and Vezina Trophy chances a lot harder to come by. As for the prediction, I'm going to give this a D+. Though Markstrom has still been one of the better goaltenders in the league, I think is closer to being a Vezina goalie than Stützle is to being top 8 in scoring. I'm going to give it a similar range here in the grades and give it a D+. I tried, but didn't work out very well. But now we move on to my 7th and last bold prediction here, and for my bold prediction videos, I always save the boldest for last, and this certainly was bold. Especially last offseason, I wasn't really sure what to really make of the Colorado Avalanche, and I will preface this by saying that this is before all the trades they made within the last year. My last bold prediction was that the Colorado Avalanche would be within 1 point of missing the playoffs. Now, I still had them as a playoff team back then. I still saw them making it, but I saw that Avs team having a lot of issues, and to their credit, I thought they fixed them extraordinarily well throughout the season. A big reason why I thought the Avs wouldn't be able to do that was just the limited cap space, but they got creative, and I think the big one that really changed their fortunes was the big Mackenzie Blackwood trade. He has been excellent for the Avs, and you also got Scott Wedgwood there, who's been a decent stopgap too. Getting rid of Georgiev was really my biggest thing, because I wasn't really sure how he was going to factor in as the starter there for the Avs team, but getting a player like Mackenzie Blackwood, who I've been a big fan of, has really boosted their playoff hopes, and I think have solidified themselves back again as a contender. And then, of course, you have all the trade deadline additions. You got Ryan Lindgren, you got Brock Nelson, Charlie Coyle. I mean, so many different moves to bolster, especially the depth of the team, which I think was pretty sorely needed. So you have the 2 big issues that I had for Colorado coming into the year in the depth and the goaltending, and I think the Avs did a pretty good job in getting creative throughout the season and fixing those issues. And credit to them, I think they did the best job they could have possibly could. I mean, I thought that for this Avs team, it would be a struggle to be back in that playoff race with how much of an issue the depth was going to be. But for them especially, they've stuck in the race all year, and they got rewarded for it. The trade deadline have been solid since then. And honestly, they fixed their issues so much where facing the Stars in the first round, if Heiskanen is injured, I honestly think the Avs are going to win that series. They've been pretty solid as of late. They got their mojo back, especially Natchez if he gets back healthy for in time for the playoffs. That could be interesting too. I think for this Avs team, they're back in a good spot, which for me, makes me really scared. Really, when we look at it, though, this prediction is completely saved by just how competent the Central Division has been. If it was just Winnipeg, Dallas, and Colorado as the only playoff teams, then this prediction would have been absolute F tier. But I did say they'd be within a point of making the playoffs, and you have a team like St. Louis and Minnesota who are still within range of being in that spot, being in the Colorado position. Even though I don't think they're going to reach the Avs, they're at least making things interesting. So I would say for that, even though the Avs are clearly going to be a playoff team, the actual prediction isn't too far off, but still not as correct as it really wanted it to be. So for my worries, I would say that bold prediction was an F, but in terms of the Avs missing the playoffs by a point, I'm going to give it a D. It wasn't completely out of nowhere and completely out of the realm of possibility, but not likely to happen by any means. Oh boy, that did not work out too well. I mean, I always try to go as bold as possible. You guys know that. So I'm expecting at least a few of the predictions to be way off base. But honestly, that's why I have so much fun doing it. I love looking back on these and seeing where my stupid brain was at a year ago and seeing how things have translated since then. And we've had a couple of predictions that have been quite close. The Dustin Wolf Calder prediction, Caufield getting around that 45 goal range. But the rest were pretty rough. But honestly, it's a lot of fun to go back and to see how badly these predictions have aged and how much teams prove me wrong. I mean, that's why I love doing this. That's why I love making predictions in the first place. I want to be proven wrong. I want to see how interesting things get. And when teams prove me wrong, players prove me wrong, that just makes things even more fun for me. Overall, though, I don't think I did the best. The Dustin Wolf Calder prediction was definitely the closest, but outside of that, I think it was largely pretty meh to pretty bad. Hopefully for this next NHL season, we do a little bit better. But hey, if Dustin Wolf, if somehow voters go to him and vote him for the Calder Trophy, all will be saved. Now, before we go, I want to talk about today's sponsor in BetUS TV, great friends of the channel, and especially with the NHL, NBA playoffs coming up. If you want to make picks on daily NHL games, sports games, whatever it might be, BetUS TV has you covered, whether it be through money line, over and under odds. You have so many different places to make picks on and so many different teams and games and everything. So a big thank you to BetUS TV for sponsoring today's video, and let's now get into the outro. A big thank you to everyone who watched to this point of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed my horrible bold predictions and my reactions to it. If you enjoyed, of course, hit that like button, hit that subscribe, and the notification bell. And what I want to know in the comments down below is, what was your big bold prediction for this season? How well or how poorly has it aged? Let me know your thoughts down below. Of course, share the video with all the hockey fans you guys know online. Click on this card for all my predictions to talk right in one playlist. And I will see you guys in the next one. I hope you have a fantastic hockey day, and goodbye.